I'd like to call to order Town Council public hearing and regular meeting, March 21st, 2024, Cape Charles Civic Center. If I could have a call to order and roll call, please.
Buckles present.
Holloway present.
Bennett, Bennett present, sorry.
Buda present.
Rosen present.
Let it be known we've established a quorum. We could please rise for a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance.
Exactly.
Pledge allegiance to the flag Thank you. All right, so to open the meeting this evening, first of all, thank you all for coming out. This is a wonderful crowd so far being here. This is by far the largest that I've seen. With the public hearing, I am going to turn it over to Mr. Hosey, and we will go over how we're going to handle this part of the.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank
So, so this is a little unusual tonight, so I need to try to walk everybody through the process. First, as the mayor alluded to earlier, there's actually going to be two opportunities for public comment tonight. Okay, the first one is the public hearing. The public hearing is specifically for the strategic plan and only the strategic plan. Okay. Then, when the public hearing is closed, we'll go on to the regular meeting. There's another opportunity there for public comment for anything you want, okay, except the strategic plan. If you want to talk about the strategic plan, that needs to be at the public hearing, okay? So just so you're aware, there's two sign-up sheets that went out there. One was for the public hearing. The other one was for just general comments for the regular meeting. So make sure that you signed up for the right one. That said, the mayor has agreed to relax the rules for the public hearing. Typically what we do for any public hearing or regular meeting comments, the public is allowed to get up and speak for 3 minutes, and that's put into the record and they sit down. Traditionally, we do not interact with the speaker. Okay, we don't respond back, we don't answer questions, we just listen to what has to be said and we move on. We're going to relax those rules for the public hearing so that we will be able to interact during the public hearing. But we will not be relaxing those rules for the regular meeting, okay? Just so everyone understands. The reason being is the strategic plan is a pretty important document, okay? It's what we base our entire operation off of. We base our budget off of it. We had a big work session. It was a joint work session between the council, the planning commission, and representatives from all the major civic groups that are active in town. So we wanted to have an opportunity for the public to tell us what they thought. So what we requested was, if possible, for people to submit their comments in writing in advance so that we could get that to the council so they'd have time to review it. Obviously, we're going to take comment today too, but to the extent that it was possible, we asked that people try to do that. And a lot of people did. About 50 people, but we had about 50 comments come in that were written comments, so that's pretty good. All of those verbatim were given to the council for the council to review when they came in, so they've had time to review them all. All of those comments, verbatim, have been entered into the record, okay? But we're not going to go over every one of those comments verbatim tonight, okay? That we'd be here till midnight. So we're not going to take the same comment twice. So if you provided that comment in writing, then that's in the record. What I am going to do is go over and to represent what was said. By and large, the vast majority of the comments all dealt with short-term rentals, almost all of them. So there was
35 comments,
With the
34
newest one
were
today.
short-term rentals.
actually it was actually more than that.
Yeah.
42.
Today, that was short-term rentals.
There was 42 comments that I counted for short-term rentals. So for the purposes of expressing that sentiment, what I'm going to do, and the other thing is because we are, let me back up, because we're relaxing the rules, and we're going to have it back and forth. Instead of the clerk reading these in, I'm going to do it, because then I can address it in real time, and we don't have to go back and forth. So there were 5 comments that did not have to do with STRs. Okay, so we're going to deal with those. So I've basically broken them into 2 groups, STRs, non-STRs, okay? So I'm going to address the STR comments first, because that was the vast majority of them. And just to express the sentiment tonight, I'm going to read one of them. I'm going to read the first one we got, the first one that was the full comment that was a fair representation of the sentiment of all the others. So I'm going to read that one comment, then I'm going to read all the names of everyone who submitted similar comments with similar requests. Okay? So I'm going to start with that. So this comment is from Julie Jones. Good afternoon, Town Manager, Mayor Charney, and councilmen and women. My name is Julie Jones. My husband and I live at 538 Monroe Avenue in Cape Charles. I wanted to email you with my thoughts on the 2024 strategic plan in advance of your meeting on March 21st. What is most important to me is the sense of community in the historic district of Cape Charles. When tragedy comes to our little town, we reach out for our neighbors for comfort. When a high-speed chase ended in Central Park and drivers go missing, as happened last August, we reached out to our neighbors to make sure that they knew that to stay safe inside their homes and make sure that they were okay. A sense of community, knowing your neighbors, small-town character, is what contributes to the feeling of living in a safe place. When you do not know who is the current resident of the home next door, because half of the homes in your block are short-term rentals, that does not contribute to a sense of community or safety in any stretch of the imagination. When more than half of the homes in your block are unoccupied from September through May, that does not contribute to a sense of community at all. When your neighbors in the Seabreeze apartments are given no choice but to leave their homes, and there is nowhere available for them to go in town, that does not contribute to a sense of community. Since Mr. Hosey's STR committee delivered the recommendations last November to you, how many more STRs have been added to the already large number of STRs, at least in the historic district? As I see it, the town council needs to summon the political will to at least call for a hold on any short-term rental approvals until they have had the information they requested back in November and are ready to vote on short-term rental regulations for the town. So many of the town's objectives, in referring to the strategic plan, hinge on getting this right. The regulations for short-term rentals to our sweet little town apply to 1, retaining small-town character; 2, advancing a variety of housing options for younger families and workforce; 3, manage smart growth and development; 4, address STR impacts on housing, admit that STR impact housing options in town; 5, recognize the impact of unlimited STRs on our limited resources of water and beach. If, for at least the second consecutive year, STR regulations are the #1 concern of full-time residents, then please acknowledge that concern. Move STR regulations/ordinances to the #1 position in Appendix B. The beach was #1 for folks who did not live here full-time, and somehow funding was found to hire a consultant and to begin process of maintaining the beach. Shouldn't you extend the same courtesy to full-time residents? If the town does not trust the recommendations of the STR committee, in spite of them having the guidance of John Hosey, Katie Nunez, and Paul Grossman, then hire a consultant and act on the consultant's recommendations. Would you please do that for all of us who call Cape Charles home? Thank you for your service to our little town, Julie Jones. Okay. So this is the list of everyone else who had a similar concept, a similar sentiment, all requesting that STRs increase in priority. Sam Jones, Bonnie Moore, Joe Bronson, Susan Berger, Nancy Proto, Diane D'Amico, Kimberly Granger, Barbara Carroll, Barbara O'Hare, Bill O'Hare, Ian Goodwin, Carol and Jim Carnegie, Earl Chip Moore, Lisa Gazzaro, Tom and Rita Surface, George Proto, Heather Atkinson, Walter Bronson, Norm and Cindy Mitchell, Linda Hutchings, Dennis Libby, Joan Cooper, Michael and Susan Hudson, Jean and Lee Masterson, Margaret Duell, James Leapman, Neil Stevens and Karen Duncan, Sue Weaver, Mark Ursey, Jeff Gray, Dave and Ann Pershing, Jennifer Della Rotary, hope I pronounced that right, Jim Granger, and Molly Pickren. Total of 42 people who expressed that sentiment. So my comments in this interactive format is to explain, since all of these were for a place of priority, it's important that I explain the priority list. So Appendix B, unfortunately, there may have been some confusion that I need to apologize for. When we had our work session back in February, it was on a Saturday, we spent all day doing it. We were anxious to get that out to the public so there was as much public time comment as possible. So we did that all day Saturday. I came in all day Sunday, put it all together and put it out on the street. There wasn't time to update the priority list from 2023. So the plan that went out originally, it says at the top, 2023 priority list, but I did note on there that the 24 list is pending. We're still going to work on it, okay? So I think that may have caused some confusion, because when you look at last year's list, it doesn't look like STR's got any priority, okay? But when we scheduled this meeting and we posted the strategic plan for this meeting, an updated 2024 priority list was included. That's what I was passing out earlier. So I wanted to make sure that we're all working off the same document here. And the way this works, and this is complex, many of the things we do take more than a year, okay? And it takes time because there's things that we don't control in the flow of the workload. So I may have it's not like we don't have the luxury of saying this is my top priority and that's all we're going to do until it gets done, and then we're going to move to number 2, and then when that's done we'll move to number 3. There could be weeks or days or months between actions that need to happen for one of these things. In that interim time, we do something else. So what we've done is we have a suite of things that are all being done at the same time. And that's what we're trying to convey here. Everything that's in blue is currently being done. It's undergoing right now. That's the maximum amount that we feel that we can absorb and do all at the same time. And remember, we're a little town of a little over 1,000 people. I don't have a big staff, and every one of my people who do work for me have a full-time job just keeping the lights on and trains running on time, right? We don't have a lot of time for this extra stuff. So we're trying to do as much as we can, and you can see there's 9 items on here that we're working on right now. When you go below, then in the black, those are things that we're not working on yet. But those are the things that we will move up as soon as we finish some of this other stuff. As soon as enough bandwidth opens up top, then we can take whatever's below and start bringing it up. Okay, so that's how this priority list works. It's important to understand that in the strategic plan itself, the goals, the objectives, the strategies, they are not listed in priority order. It says right at the front that these are not in any particular order. Okay, all of those things are important to the town. If you wanted to know what we're going to prioritize this year, you have to go to Appendix B. That's where the council goes and decides which of all of these things are we going to try to work on this year. Okay. So you will note that this draft that is before council that they will consider tonight has 9 things that we're currently working on. One of them is short-term rental regulations. We've been working on this since last summer. Okay, it is currently being done. So you can't move it to any higher priority than now. It is being done now. Now, these things take time. So the reason So let me explain where we are in the process of that project, okay? The committees got together last summer, we worked through the summer and the fall, we came up with recommendations, we presented them to a joint work session of the council and the planning commission in November. We got some feedback, they needed some more information, and some of the items were controversial, some of them not so much. So that work paused so that we could get three things. Number one, I needed input from the public. So we put that on the community survey. So there was a community survey that went out immediately after that work session that asked what the public thought of the most controversial issue of all the recommendations, and that was, the cap issue, right? So we had to wait for that survey to come in and get that information. Then we used the survey information to update the strategic plan, okay, which hopefully will get approved tonight. So we were waiting to get the information from the citizens. We were waiting to get a plan updated from the council. And the third thing we were waiting for was the legislative session in Richmond. There was at least a half a dozen bills that we needed to see how they were going to play out in order that would affect the work of the committee and the types of things we would do and how we could make something implementable. So we had to wait for those three things to happen in order to continue the work that's already been started. The legislative session is over, the survey is over, the plan will hopefully get approved tonight. I've already scheduled the next meeting of the committee for the beginning of April, which is as soon as I could get everyone scheduled together. So this work is our top priority. We're working on it right now. And
I guess, Sean, just to add on, one of the public comments was asking for soliciting public comments on short-term rentals. Can you just explain the process? Because ultimately, we come an ordinance, and the process will involve, but is there a town hall meeting type that we talked about earlier?
yes, so we start off with the decision makers, which is a working group between the council and the planning commission. And we make sure there's some sort of consensus there. Once we get consensus from, and we did not get consensus on all those recommendations last November, so we still have to get that consensus. Once we do, then it's our recommendation that we then hold a town hall meeting. That's a meeting dedicated only to STRs, where we have a back and forth, and you can discuss each and every one of those recommendations and how you feel about them, and council gets to hear all of that before moving forward to finalizing these regulations, whether they're in ordinance form or some other form. Once they are put into ordinance form, then they go through another public process. So they have got to go through the planning commission first, because they're very likely going to involve zoning. So you're going to have a public hearing and an opportunity to talk about it at the planning commission. Then once the planning commission makes their recommendations, it goes to the town council. Then again, you have another public hearing and another opportunity to speak before the council enacts any final regulation. So there's a lot of public outreach still to come. Like I said, we've already started with reaching out with the survey. We got a lot of good information from the survey. We also had a kind of an open-ended question in there that also to try and capture some of the concerns. So anyway, that's kind of where we are on that. I did notice one in a lot of the comments that we got on this. There were some misconceptions on a lot of it. Much of it was a form letter type thing that people modified. There were some misconceptions in it, and I'm not going to try to get through all of them. But one of them said that there were no residents on the committee, and that's simply not true. There's six people on this committee. 4 of them are full-time residents. So. So we try to represent it as fairly as we can. These committees can't get too big, they get unwieldy. Trying to get everyone together for meetings is tough. We're all volunteer. No, I get paid. Everyone else is volunteers. So it's tough.
Big bucks.
So does the council want to add anything on the STR?
Well, some of the inputs that we had obviously dealt with public engagement and regulations and moving it up in priority, but really there was other comments relative to how people felt about capping and parking and what have you. That really is not in the strategic plan. That's gonna be dealt at the subcommittee level and planning commission and town council.
Correct.
Correct.
You're right. We are not going to solve this problem tonight. The strategic plan only identifies the problem, not the solution, right? So we've identified the problem and the priority in which we are going to tackle that problem. So any of the issues you have with the particulars of the STR debate, that discussion is not germane tonight.
But it
Tonight
will-
is just,
But it will go forward to the committee, the working
Absolutely.
committee.
Yeah,
So,
it's great that we have
Right.
the letters all in one location that the subcommittee can now
exactly, yeah.
pick and glean from.
And I'd like to also, just to put into the record, I don't think we should use the word problem, we should use issue, because right now it's an issue. We don't know for sure whether it's a problem, and I just want that put in the record, so.
Matter of opinion, but okay.
Okay, well,
So that addresses the, all the comments that we got on short-term rental. So now I would like to address the non-short-term rental comments. Well, the other reason for doing this first is, normally we have the people in the room speak first and then we read the other comments. But I thought it would be better for anyone who wants to speak tonight to have the benefit of hearing this first. So that it may alter what it is you might want to say. All right, so now some of these people also, they had multiple things in their, multiple issues in their comments, and one of them might have been STRs. If they did have STRs in that, I've excluded that from this because that was counted over here. This is all comments that are anything but STRs. Okay, the first one is from James Metz. And he requests that invitations to civic groups be extended to all the working groups that the town works and have that formalized within the strategic plan, specifically to the following objectives. Retain the small town character for Cape Charles, conduct a master plan for the railroad property and surrounding areas, and develop parking capacity inventory and recommendations. My comment to that is that we're already doing that. We are involving all appropriate groups in working groups that we develop. I would be opposed to putting something like this in the strategic plan because that would be more micromanaging. The plan is what to do, not how to do it. And I wouldn't want my hands tied to have every group in every meeting. That would become unwieldy. So my comment to that is that these things involving civic groups based on the topic is what we're doing now and what we intend to do. Second thing was to request that the promote improvements to and additions to sidewalks be moved to level I to denote a higher priority. As I mentioned earlier, nothing in the strategic plan is in priority order. So it's just listed. If you want any a type of priority, you've got to go to Appendix B. The next one was to request that soliciting public comments should be part of enacting short-term rental regulations. We've already addressed that. Absolutely, there'll be we've already solicited public comments in the form of the survey, and we will continue to do so as we develop STR regulations. And then the last thing he put in there was to request that residential be added to the healthy balance of harbor uses in addition to commercial and recreation. The objective he's referring to is bringing a balance to harbor users. And I think there may have been a misunderstanding here. We do not allow residential in the harbor. Okay? We don't allow people to live in the harbor. He may have thought that we were talking about the harbor area, and that would be included in master planning. But we don't currently allow residential in the harbor. The next comment is from Julie Stone. Hello all. I read through your plans, goals, and agenda. They are very thorough and comprehensive. Thank you for all your hard work. The only addition to the topics is to ask for a review of the streetlights plan. I think that ANAC implements most of the choices, but surely the town can request and promote better lighting, meaning softer lights directed toward the ground on timers or dimmers to promote healthy dark skies. I presume there are different needs between commercial, residential, and agricultural areas. But a review of what lighting we have compared with what we would like to have and encourage would raise awareness about the town lighting as a quality of life issue. Thank you for all you do, Julie Stone.
John, what's her address?
529 Tazewell. I have no particular comment on that. It's a valid point and something council should consider. The next one is from Sam Jones. To Mayor, council members, and town manager. Thank you for your service to the town of Cape Charles and the opportunity to provide comment on the draft 2024 strategic plan update. My name is Sam Jones. I live at 538 Monroe Avenue. My wife Julie and I have owned our property since 2015 and became full-time residents in 2022. Sam also requested STRs be number 1. Then he said, I requested that the item develop harbor/railroad area conceptual master plan and new design guidelines be given the second highest priority. One only has to stand on the hump and look east and west to see how development of this area will significantly impact our town. I hear people say that we have a plan for this area, but it's outdated and needs updating. It would be more than unfortunate if this area is developed piecemeal with no overall vision provided by the town. There are so many questions. How does this development connect to Mason Avenue? What is the balance between residential and commercial? How should green space and viewscapes figure in? Do we see this as a walking area, etc.? If conceptual master plan is put in place now, it will guide future development to the benefit of the town. Finally, the issue of population growth and the type of growth that came up in the recent strategic planning session. Develop long-term projections for growth in Bay Creek, the Harbor District, and other areas of town that would be good input into the development decisions going forward, as well as identifying any infrastructure capacity issues. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comment, Sam Jones. My only comments to that is that the development of the railroad area master plan is in the current 2024 priority list as the very next item to slide up as soon as there's bandwidth. Again, it's a draft. The council hasn't approved it yet. And with regard to the planning for growth, we actually did a lot of that last year. We had to do a lot of research with regard to coming up with a settlement for the annexation agreement liability with Bay Creek. We came up with an agreement with that. We had to project potential growth in all these areas in order to capture their potential liability. So we already have a fair amount of information on that that was collected. It's granted it's a year stale now, but it would be a good start that we can add to our future master planning.
But it is a tool that you're using right now as you look at
Yes.
various
Yes.
residents or
Yes.
localities being developed.
Yes, because we had to project out, when we think we're going to reach capacity on water and sewer and how quickly and all. So we did put a lot of work into that last year. The next one is from Bonnie Moore. Hello. Thank you for encouraging feedback to the community strategic plan. Overall, the plan is excellent. I would like to provide feedback, mostly positive, for a few items. Regarding small town character, I was delighted to see sidewalks and walkability mentioned in the plan. Walking Cape Charles is one of our favorite activities, and continuous sidewalks would be such a dream. For town services, we have never found that parking is an issue in Cape Charles, even during 4th of July. Adding an EV charger is a great idea. We have one available to guests and contacted frequently by travelers who are desperately looking to recharge. The charger may attract travelers passing through and give them time to shop, dine, and fall in love with Cape Charles. Recycling would be a huge benefit. I could replace half of my trash bins with recycling bins. Thank you thank you all for dedicating your time and service to this wonderful town, Bonnie Moore. Not much I can add to that. Those are all valid points, and they're all addressed in one place or another within there.
Charging systems.
The charging system, ANEC we're partnering with them and Canoni to have two charging stations put in the municipal parking lot. There's been delay after delay, mostly for availability of electricians and the supplies. The last I heard was it's scheduled to go in tomorrow. So,
I think they have everything ready to go.
so let's see. Hopefully, we'll have those two charging stations tomorrow.
What's Bonnie's address?
She's 206 and 208 Madison.
And then the last one was from Mark Ursi. Dear members of Town Council, first, thank you for the time and personal sacrifice that you make to serve our community. While I appreciate the overall scope of the revised strategic plan and don't wish to see anything removed, I have some suggestions. Mark also had an STR comment, but these are his non-STR comments. Our community has 4 gems: the beach, the harbor, Mason Avenue, and Central Park. My serious concern about the current strategic plan specifically states, protect and maintain the beachfront, protect and maintain the harbor, retain and expand business in a business-friendly environment. However, oh, sorry. So basically, the plan addresses 3 of the 4 gems, is what Mark's trying to say here. However, despite reading and rereading the strategic plan, I find no mention of Central Park. The patchwork pattern of sidewalks in town need to be a higher priority. Where they are missing, they need to be filled in. As a community, we need to be thinking about what there is to do for our middle school and high school students. We have wonderful, safe beach and playground for our younger children, but those kids grow up. But as those kids grow up, what is for them to do beyond that? Basketball and volleyball courts would help with that situation. Again, many thanks to all of you and to the town staff. Sincerely, Mark Ursi. My only comment I might offer about the Central Park comment is that, unlike the other areas that we're still working on, Central Park is largely built out. There's not a whole lot more to do there. I would offer that we do reference within our objectives under promote environmental stewardship. One of the objectives is to develop a plan for public green/open spaces, which I would think Central Park would certainly be included within that plan. But other than that, that's really the only comment I could offer. That is the extent of all of the written comments. Does council?
Well, one thing I wanted to mention, the sidewalk priority relative to our strategic plan versus our capital plan. We have things that we're working on, and we prioritize a 5-year plan there that needs to coincide to a certain degree with strategic plan, but there's actual capital dollars that are needed that we're expending right now based on a priority system that we have put together during budget times.
Correct. Yeah. Again, these are all multi-year issues. So we have a multi-year capital plan, as Councilman Grossman indicated. Sidewalk is in our capital capital plan. It just is not in the current year.
I wonder if maybe having that as an attachment, an appendix to the strategic plan so that it's in one place might help.
I agree. That would be ideal, but the problem is timing. This comes first.
I know the budget,
So you'd be
yeah.
putting last year's plan in,
Yeah.
which you
But
could
if we-
do, but
If we make that agreement tonight to add it in, then it's there, kind of.
After the fact.
After the fact.
yeah, maybe. All right, so with that, we could open it up to whoever signed up, if you have anything that you would like to add, in addition to, that's different from what has already been provided.
And is this still timed? Or no? Are we relaxing that as well?
Well, we're relaxing it, but we'll
Try to
remind,
be-
let's remind them at the time, yeah.
Okay.
Richard Berger?
Time.
Yep. Time it.
Not having to do with short-term rentals. Good evening, Mayor Charney and members of the Town Council. I'm Richard Berger, 550 Madison, chairperson of your Cape Charles Memorial Library Board, to address you once again on behalf of our library in regards to the proposed strategic plan. For bullet point number 1, small town character, subhead A, there's a note below Roman numeral 4 regarding the recognition or acknowledgement of various civic groups in town. I can think of no better way to recognize and acknowledge members of the groups listed, as well as various members of the town boards, than to invite them to serve on town committees like the one that drafted this plan. Their community engagement is already self-evident. Their input could be invaluable. Same bullet point, item D, quirky events. By the way, whoever came up with the phrase quirky events, I love it. I believe that our library programming may be the epitome of quirkiness. Thanks to the efforts of our incredible library staff, Sharon, Betsy, and Maureen. From jugglers to mimes to bay singing, story times, owl prowls, June brides, puppet shows, promoting quirky for all ages is what we do. Supporting the library supports quirky events. Same bullet point, item E, regarding the arts, entertainment, and recreation, Roman numeral 1, at low or no cost. Look no further than the Cape Charles Memorial Library for free events in all 3 categories, and need I say it, we also have a few books. Bullet point number 7 proposes to meet our residents' expectations for town services. Item A, to establish modern municipal facilities. First, let me thank you for the upgrades to the library's heating system. We do appreciate your efforts. But reading between the lines here, I imagine we're talking about the new town offices way out on the other side of the hump and the harbor. That's all well and good. The current offices do need to be replaced for a host of reasons, but please don't forget our library, attracting far more citizens and visitors than the town offices, and conveniently located right on Mason Street in the heart of the business district. Please ensure that our building too, quoting the plan, remains safe and effective. I see further down on tonight's agenda that you're issuing a proclamation regarding National Library Week. On behalf of the board and the library staff and our hundreds of patrons, I thank you for this proclamation. It would have been nice to invite the library staff. As you make decisions and set priorities regarding the implementation of this strategic plan, please keep your proclamation, please keep your proclamation, my presentation last month, and my remarks this evening in mind. Your support of our library will satisfy a number of the elements of the plan cost-effectively, efficiently, and to the benefit of all the town's residents and visitors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Rich, would you mind giving that to Libby?
It's gone through some serious
Oh.
edits this evening. I promise you, Libby, I will send you a copy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My comments are on short-term rental, but I would appreciate to be able to read my notes anyhow. My name is Phil Getkin. My wife, Diane D'Amico, and I are full-time residents of Cape Charles and live at 602 Jefferson Avenue. We're going to be asking for a reprioritization of the priorities included in Appendix D. I'll get more to that later. This will only be about 3 or 4 minutes. Diane and I decided to move from Northern Virginia to Cape Charles because of Cape Charles' small town character, its sense of community, and the Eastern Shore's natural beauty. We purchased our lot in 2014 and moved into our new house in 2015. When we first moved here, it seemed like you knew everyone. Regardless of which event you were attending, most of the people there were your friends and neighbors. People had common goals and interests, and we certainly felt a sincere sense of community. Some of our original neighbors on 602 Jefferson Avenue had names like Alice, Diane, and Linwood, Bob, Walter, and Lillian, Janet, and Fab. All these people, unfortunately, are long gone from the neighborhood. Now we have some new neighbors, and these are all within a block or two of me. One of these names, Wareneck Properties, LLC, Good Times on Cape, LLC, Distinguished Properties, LLC, Wilmington Lots, LLC, Bad Dog Investments, LLC. These are my new neighbors. The purpose of an LLC, obviously, is to make money, and that's fine. The reason so many of my new neighbors are LLCs is because they saw an opportunity to make profits in Cape Charles by building or purchasing homes and renting them out on a short-term basis. Full-time residents are the strength of any community. I think that's especially true here in Cape Charles. Without full-time residents, who would serve on the town's committees and commissions and civic organizations, on Main Street, on the library board, and on all of the special events that occur all year long here in town? However, unfortunately, because of STRs, I think many full-time residents are becoming frustrated and to a certain degree depressed because of the impact of short-term rentals are having on the fabric of the community. Many people are considering moving. Okay, and some have already done so. I don't believe we are the town that we used to be. That doesn't mean that we can't regain that. On the 500 and 600 blocks of Jefferson Avenue where we live, there's a total of 41 houses. 13 of them are occupied by full-time residents, 19 are short-term rentals, and the remaining 9 houses are either vacant or have part-time owners. In my opinion, that's not the definition of a well-balanced neighborhood. That's a definition of a neighborhood being taken over by business interest. Therefore, Diane and I are asking that the following change to the strategic plan. Make sure development of short-term rental regulations and ordinances are #1 priority on Appendix B. More importantly, the work on these new regulations and ordinances, and I know that we are working on things, needs to begin immediately. In our opinion, many of the priorities on Appendix B become meaningless if we no longer have our small-town character and sense of community. We need to take care of our full-time residents. And just to have one little paragraph. We're not against short-term rentals. However, we need to achieve a proper balance in the community regarding full-time residents, part-time residents, and short-term rentals. And we believe the only way to achieve that balance is to limit the number of short-term rentals before the issue becomes moot. Things are moving along very quickly. There's a lot of building going on in town. Issues like noise, trash, parking, and overcrowding are all important issues. However, we feel without appropriate limits, we will not achieve our goals. So I'm asking you to, I think if you have the will and the interest, we can make it a top priority. There is ongoing work. We could change it from black to blue.
It is blue.
It is blue.
It is
It's
blue
already
now?
blue.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
Thank
is
you.
already, it's now, so.
And as one other person had said, I mean, other things, we've gotten consultants here in town if we feel we're short on staff. To me, that seems like an issue that's important enough where we could spend additional money. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought I couldn't speak.
Right, she had a written,
She's done.
Yeah.
yeah, who else is on the list that has a,
That's all on the public hearing.
all right. Where is it? Can I get a motion to
Yeah, I'll
close
make
the
a
public
motion
hearing?
to close public hearing.
Second.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is closed. All right, recognition of some visitors this evening and some presentations. First, National Library Week proclamation, we heard about it earlier. Proclamation 2024-0321A, National Library Week, April 7th through the 13th, 2024. Ready, Set, Library. Whereas libraries offer the opportunity for everyone to connect with others, learn new skills, and pursue their passions no matter where they are on life's journey. Whereas libraries have long served as trusted institutions, striving to ensure equitability, access, and information and services for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. Whereas libraries adapt to the ever-changing needs of their communities, developing and expanding collections, programs, and services that are as diverse as the populations they serve. Whereas libraries are accessible and exclusive places that promote a sense of local connection, advancing understanding, civic engagement, and shared community goals. Whereas libraries play a pivotal role in economic development by providing resources and support for job seekers, entrepreneurs, and small businesses, thus contributing to the local prosperity and growth. Whereas libraries make choices that are good for the environment and make sense economically, creating thriving communities for a better tomorrow. Whereas libraries are treasured institutions that preserve our collective heritage and knowledge, safeguarding both physical and digital resources for present and future generations. Whereas libraries are an essential public good and fundamental institutions in democratic societies working to improve society, protect the right to educate and literacy, and promote the free exchange of information and ideas for all. Whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. Now therefore be it resolved that the Cape Charles Town Council hereby proclaims National Library Week, April 7th through the 13th, 2024, and encourages all residents to visit the Cape Charles Memorial Library and celebrate the adventures and opportunity it unlocks for us every day. Ready, Set, Library. Adopted by the Town Council of Cape Charles on this 21st day of March, 2024.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt proclamation 2024-032-1A.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion
Adam, do you
carried.
want to get a picture with Richard since he's here?
Take the sticky off.
Richard, do you want to come up? We'll get your picture with the proclamation. I'm the staff, you want to move, if you guys want to.
Who's taking the picture?
It'll be normal.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Our second one this evening. The Arbor Day Proclamation. Tree City USA Arbor Day Foundation Proclamation 2024-0321B, whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can be solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our town increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Cape Charles Town Council hereby designates April 27th, 2024 as Arbor Day in the town of Cape Charles, and urges all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, and further urges all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Adopted by the Town Council of Cape Charles on this 21st day of March, 2024. Could I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion that we adopt proclamation 2024-0321B.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let me know. It's passed unanimously.
Bill?
I'd also like to make note that Cape Charles has recently gotten notification from the Arbor Day Foundation that we are designated as a Tree City USA for the 4th year in a row.
Moving right along. All right, do we have any public comments?
Yes, Walter Bronson?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Walter Bronson, 515 Tazewell. I want to speak tonight on the vision statement and the importance of the vision statement and adhering to a vision statement. According to Effective Governance, a vision statement describes what an organization aspires to be. It serves as a North Star and pointing to the future of the state. It also provides direction to everyone in the organization as they focus their efforts on achieving that vision. It's reported that during JFK's 1962 tour of NASA, he asked the janitor what he did at NASA, and the janitor replied, "I'm helping put a man on the moon." Cape Charles' vision statement, and I've broken it into 4 parts, is to preserve our historical, natural, and cultural resources. 2, while managing growth and fostering a sense of community. 3, that enhances well-being and prosperity. And 4, now and for generations to come. So what does that mean? 1, preserving our historical, natural, and cultural resources seems pretty straightforward. The town works diligently with our Historical District Review Board, Wetlands and Coastal Zone Board, Beachfront Master Planning, etc. 2, while managing growth and fostering sense of community. It seems a bit more difficult to me. Managing growth, even maintaining stable business environment, has challenges. The solutions to those challenges can often overlook the overall needs of the community. The vision seems to be to balance growth without negatively impacting the community. No easy task, to be sure. Item 3, that enhances well-being and prosperity. Another challenge. The vision is to intensify, increase, and improve the well-being of the community, while at the same time improving its prosperity. And again, there is a need to provide balance between community well-being and prosperity. 4, now and for generations to come, an even greater challenge. We must consider the actions we take now or don't take, and not only foresee how they will impact our growth, prosperity, and our community today, but also years or even decades from today. In closing, I encourage the council to consider the community, the people that live here, and the impacts that your actions or lack thereof. While you strive to maintain and enhance prosperity, you must achieve a balance as too much of one may not be good for the other. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joe Bronson, I live at 515 Tazewell, and I'd like to talk, I have to read because I babble. So I'm just going to read it. My topic is parking and occupancy. I would like to address a concern that I, as well as others, have regarding parking in this quaint little town. Tackling issues arising from STRs does not have to be an all-or-nothing deal. There are issues that can and should be looked at individually for immediate attention if possible. If anyone in this room has not experienced parking issues yet, it is likely because you have not had a vacation rental that advertises a minimum of 10 adults with an unlimited bevy of children. Believe it or not, there are actually 114 rentals on VRBO alone that advertise for 10-plus people in one house. There is always that one rental on every block that accommodates this many people but has no on-site parking. Guests arrive in a minimum of 5 cars, 2 golf carts, a trailered boat, and/or a trailer of boat toys. That is what we are treated to almost every week during the peak rental periods. This is a problem. It's not an issue. It is frustrating for full-time residents.
Let's hold all applause, please. Thank you.
It is frustrating for full-time residents as well as vacation owners that do the right thing and provide sufficient parking on-site to accommodate their guests. If you are on the 600 block of Tazewell, you too will have another vacation rental property owner who only has space for 2 vehicles on the street with no on-site parking. This house was just approved by Cape Charles for 14 people. 14 adults. Where will these 14 people park? Correct me if I'm wrong, Tammy, but in both these instances, they are each allowed to accommodate more people than your bed and breakfast hotel allows. But unlike your B&B that is required to provide 1 parking spot per room, these property owners are not required to create or provide any parking. Parking can easily be addressed.
30 seconds.
Parking can easily be addressed not by using tax dollars to create and maintain large parking lots for the vacation rentals, not by painting curbs, and not by making full-time residents police the guests of the vacation rental business owners, but by controlling occupancy at each rental property. I'm suggesting that you require rental property owners to provide 1 parking spot for every bedroom they advertise. If you advertise 4 bedrooms and can only accommodate 3 parked vehicles, then your maximum occupancy needs to,
All right.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
needs
Yeah,
to be
finish up.
based on your available parking, not the number of bedrooms. In short, compare the number of bedrooms the property owner pays taxes on, not what he advertises in his ad, what he pays taxes on, to the number of on-site and frontage parking spots provided. Whichever is less, determine occupancy based on that. I would suggest multiply that number by 2, and that is the maximum adult occupancy that should be permitted on the property. Not the number of mattresses thrown in a bedroom, and not occupation using square area of a bedroom space, which is nothing less than bizarre. With the density of our houses, we should not have to live adjacent to vacation rental houses with 10 to 15 adults and 7 kids. It is not even remotely out of line to limit a 3-bedroom house to 6 adults. I question whether you could find an owner-occupied resident in town that has that many. Sorry. Set maximum occupancy for these rental properties that corresponds to available parking, and many parking complaints, if not all, will go away. This is a first step in doing right by the full and part-time residents here in Cape Charles who don't seem to have a voice on this subject. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, just a reminder, point of order, no applause is allowed, no booing is allowed, okay? That's the decorum of any time we have public comment. So please, no applause, no booing, okay? That's the set of respect. Also, and as a reminder, this is as I mentioned earlier, the rules are not relaxed in this portion of the comments. So if you come up, you're limited to 3 minutes. Okay? If you wanted to have the more relaxed comments, you should have come and spoken at the public hearing.
Phil Getkin, 602 Jefferson. On a positive note, I would like to publicly thank John Hosey and the Public Works staff for the great work they do every single day. As evidenced by this past weekend at the community-wide cleanup event, I mean, those guys were amazing. People were cutting down trees as fast as they cut them down, and they were grinding them up and hauling them away as fast as they could. And I know being at New Roots, working at New Roots for the last 10 years, they help us out every single day, and we really appreciate it. And I appreciate the work they do. So I wanted to publicly acknowledge that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. No.
The sound of one hand clapping.
No one else has signed up, but I do have one that was submitted in writing to be read into the record.
Okay.
This is from Nancy and Butch Vest. It says, "Dear Ms. Nunez and the members of Town Council, we appreciate your detailed work on the proposed outdoor lighting ordinance. We see that you reference the current lighting standards and the fact that all lighting shall comply with dark sky standards. We have mentioned this requirement to several individuals in the town offices, but they have claimed to be unaware of or did not care about any such ordinance. As residents of Cape Charles, we have always complied with the dark sky standards and use only low wattage bulbs on our front porch and garage. Unfortunately, we live next door to a VRBO that uses multiple strands of string lights to illuminate their patio. As this establishment is rented almost every week, we must endure the light trespass that flows into our windows every night. It seems you are now proposing that these types of lights be grandfathered in. We find this very disheartening. People who follow the rules are punished, as people who break the rules are rewarded. Rules are rules, and everyone in town should be working with and abiding by the same set of regulations. If the town of Cape Charles were to lower the speed limit in town, would the people who exceed the new speed limit be grandfathered in and allowed to continue to use the old speed limit? The lights in the next-door VRBO's yard are not dark sky compliant and should not have been allowed. They should not be grandfathered in. This should be true for all the homes in Cape Charles. We hope you will enforce the rules fairly and equally for all citizens. Sincerely, Roland B. Vest Jr. and Nancy Daniel Vest."
Thank you. Nobody online?
We don't take online comments.
Oh, okay, well, never mind. Guess there's nobody online. Can we get a motion to close? Don't need a motion. All right. On to the consent agenda. Approval of the agenda format, approval of the minutes, and approval of January 31st, 2024 financial report.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Consent agenda is approved unanimously. No unfinished business. New business, annual reports. Planning Commission, please.
This is the fun stuff now, guys.
Good evening. I apologize that we are so tardy and delayed in getting these annual reports to the board, but we appreciate your indulgence this evening for having multiple years presented at once. I would like to recognize for the 5 boards that my department staffs, which is the Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Historic District Review Board, the Wetlands Board, and the Harbor Area Review Board. They are composed of, some members serve multiple boards. I have 25 volunteers that staff these boards, that are serving on these boards and dedicating hundreds of hours of community service. And I really thank them for that and applaud their efforts. Tonight, we have most of our chairs or vice chairs of these boards with us this evening. So I think they may wish to provide some comments to you, but I do want to recognize them all. For the Planning Commission, we have Bill Strand is here. Paul Grossman is our vice chairman to that board as well. We also have for BZA, Bill Murphy is here. I believe Dolores Blackburn is our vice chair, who is here as well. For Wetlands and Coastal Sand Dune, our chair, John Shawneck, never say that right, is here. And for Historic District Review Board, I believe Kathy Glazer is in the audience, and I think Herb was coming as well. This was our vice chair, Herb Tom. The only one we don't have represented tonight is our chairman from Harbor area, that's Stuart Smith, but we have Steve Bennett, who serves as the vice chair to that board. So I really do thank all of them for the work they've done. With that said, I'm not going to go into detail for each report, but I think we have worked really hard the last few years in this department and through these boards. We have advanced tremendous initiatives for the town moving forward. We have worked on updating the comprehensive plan. That is done. It is a 5-year annual review process every year, so it's never ever finished, but at least we got the 5-year update finished, and we are working towards its implementation of that comprehensive plan. We have now also started on updating the zoning ordinance, which has not been done in many years. So that's an ongoing project of the Planning Commission and the Town Council to move our zoning ordinance forward. We hope that comes to fruition before this year is out. From the historic district side of things, we updated over the last 2 years the guidelines. That was a giant project, and I think we have had some very successful results with those improved guidelines as to how they've been received by our residents, our contractors and builders through this program, and the receipt of how we are now doing business through the Historic District Review Board. There used to be many appeals filed to their decisions to the Town Council, and that has come down to a very nominal number. You have received 1 appeal in the last 3 years from the Historic Board, and again, your decisions on that were in consistency with our new guidelines of how you handled that appeal. From the Harbor Area Review Board, we have worked hard in ensuring any projects coming forward are getting reviewed. We still would like to update our guidance documents associated with the Harbor Board, but we know that is forthcoming as a priority item. From the Wetlands Board, they are driven solely by application submissions. So they don't set their calendars, they are responsive to whatever the calendars are set by the public at large. And so we've had quite a fair amount of applications coming forward for development on waterfront property that is near or adjacent to wetlands. We've also had applications for dunes or piers that they've had to weigh in on as well. So they've been quite an active board. Some months nothing, other months a lot. And then our last one is the Board of Zoning Appeals. For the first couple of years I was with them, we had quite a few applications. We have tailored off a bit on that. And that's, again, more so for our work in the office with the applicants of trying to get them in compliance with the zoning ordinance, both our Cape Charles one and the Accomack Plantation PUD ordinance in Bay Creek. If we can't find the solution there, then it moves over to a variance request before the Board of Zoning Appeals. And they take those responsibilities very seriously. And in fact, this last year, we had an application come forward that tested all of us because it was an exception to the Chesapeake Bay Act. Nobody on the board had ever dealt with the Chesapeake Bay Act exception rules. So we had a lot of education to do of all parties, both the applicants, the neighborhood, and our board members to move that one through. So I really do commend all the work that we've been doing and the volume of work. And I do want to point out, the Historic Board, their volume of work is extraordinary. And I know we take a lot of criticism that it's a terrible board to go through. It's an awful process. I hope we are turning the tide on that public opinion. We work through a lot of applications. You can see the numbers. And right now, so far, our meeting time frame normally never lasts more than an hour and a half, which was not the case when I came on board. My first meeting was 4 hours long. It was terrible. So I really want to thank all of my boards. Thank you for our time and attention to get this cleaned up. So I will stop and see if any of the chairmen's present.
Can I say something before you do that? Because I normally would hold till the end, but I just think this is an unbelievable amount of work. And before anybody else walks out, I don't know who all has read all of these things, but I did. I'm overwhelmed at the amount of information that is provided in these reports and cannot thank you and the boards enough for putting these together. This is an invaluable reference hopefully, and I'm assuming will be available on the town's website.
Yes.
But unbelievable work, and thank you so much for doing that.
You're welcome.
And I can tell you, I don't have very many visitors come to my shop anymore. So
I'm sorry? I don't know.
Something's happening, and you're doing something right, because I'm not getting any feedback.
And I just want to comment, since we have so many people present tonight and online, please take Steve's advice in reading them, because so often things wait until they get explosive before people really read and get updated on that. So if you're not reading the weekly reports and things like this as an annual report, it's so helpful, because those are the things that do keep us in our character, and those things that are important. It's the day-to-day work that many of our employees are doing.
And these will be posted tomorrow as a permanent spot on our planning and zoning page. There'll be a spot under every board for their annual reports. Yes. So,
Can I just add one quick, I think on the historic, one element, the design guidelines went a long ways, but training
yes.
was accompanied with that. It really helped that we haven't had in the past, so that was one thing I wanted to mention. The other is on the wetlands, do we have a lot of vacancies?
We have one vacancy right now on the Wetlands Board. We have one vacancy on the Planning Commission Board. We would like to recruit for the Historic Board to have some alternates in the wings. And I think that may be it.
And the clerk has just done a blast for that, because we have a couple of applications, but we need a couple more so we can schedule some interviews. So please beat the bushes for any of those openings. The Facebook page post that was just made, please share it with your folks and get the word out as much as you can, because we really use some more applications.
Yes, Councilman.
And just quickly to add in my kudos, I mean, I know probably nobody has more work in the Planning Commission, but particularly the Historic District Review Board. So much effort and time went into that, and you know, I no longer hear. Of course, nobody likes having to go in front of a review committee and have their ideas, you know, get permission. But you know, people don't feel that they're coming in there getting beat up. They don't avoid maintenance on their home because of the process, and there's much more consistency and clarity. So kudos to you and the board. I mean, there's just, I think, been a sea change in that, and it's really, like whoever said, is a key part of our town character and community. So thank you very much for that.
Katie?
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention a thanks to the staff of Tracy Outen, who's been tremendous through all of this. And for a period of time, I had Ken Buda as staff for me. And then I had Robert James as staff doing our enforcement arm of things from the zoning office. And from an administrative perspective, we added Maureen Meditz into the team this year as well. So I thank the board for giving me additional staff to get all this work done as well. So, but I will open it up if any of the chairmen would care to speak. I don't want to just steal their thunder.
I just want to second the recognition of Tracy, who, for the Historic Board, has done so much work, just gathering all the information and putting it all together for us makes our job easier.
Great. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would like to say.
Come on up to the microphone, please.
People online so they can hear you.
I'm Bill Murphy, Chairman of the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I'd just like to add a little bit to what Katie's already said. We did have a couple of somewhat unusual cases this year, and one in particular that just about drove us all over the hill, but we all had to educate ourselves, do a lot of deep diving into regulations and laws and zoning and things like that, and without her, I don't think we would have gotten through it. She did a wonderful job every step of the way, guiding us, even-tempered, just couldn't ask for any better help with taking care of what we had to do. So I just wanted to recognize her efforts. I know you guys are all aware of that, but I wanted to say well done to her.
Thank you so much.
Bill Stram, Chairman of the Planning Commission. So I've been on the Planning Commission now for almost 12 years, and I want to really thank this woman here for the job that she's done and brought us together. We had a housing subcommittee. We had a parking, a sign subcommittee. Did a great job. It's going to result in better ordinances. And lastly, it took us a little over 3 years to do the comp plan, and we had COVID in between. So kudos to everybody that was on the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
All right, any questions?
The only thing I would like to add is we can have great ordinances, and all of these groups have done a good job updating things, but unless we enforce them uniformly across the town, ordinances don't matter. So we've got to make sure that that becomes a priority, that we staff that, and that we encourage that.
And if you could point people our way, we would appreciate it.
Absolutely. I think I may have someone.
All right. Anything else? Moving on. Recommendation for the appointment of the Cape Charles representative to the Northampton County Economic Development Authority, formerly Joint IDA.
So, Mr. Mayor, this is a fairly straightforward one. John Burtis is our representative, and done a great job, and would like to recommend that he continue. So what's being requested of you tonight is that you pass a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to allow him to be reappointed, and staff would recommend that you do that.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to recommend the reappointment of John Burtis to the Northampton County Economic Development Authority.
Second. All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Being known, it's passed unanimously. Adoption of the 2024 Community Strategic Plan and 2024 Town Priorities.
So, Mr. Mayor, we've heard a lot about this during the public hearing. We've got a lot of feedback on STRs and other things. As I mentioned earlier, I'll just recap that this is a ongoing process of managing our vision and goals. So we start with a comprehensive plan. We're required to do that by state code. But a comprehensive plan is a very big document. It's something you redo every 5 years or so. The strategic plan is smaller. It's nimbler. It allows us to address issues in real time. And we use the strategic plan to implement the comprehensive plan. So, so we got together in the work session I described earlier between the Planning Commission, the Town Council, and representatives from community organizations in town. We identified which parts of the comp plan we wanted to address this year, and so we focused the strategic plan on that. We had an all-day session in February that had a lot of good discussion, and that has all those comments and the work effort from that work session has been incorporated into the current draft before you. Again, the way it's constructed is, again, this is meant to be easily referenced, easily read and absorbed by the public. We didn't want something that was too big to get your hands around. It's only 12 pages, including appendixes. The main goals and objectives, as I mentioned earlier, are not in priority order. All of these things are important. So we look at these in totality every year, and the council then, from all of these, decides what is our priority going to be. Appendix B is that priority for that year. So we go through all of the comp plan objectives, reviewed them in the strategic plan, and then try to put them into some sort of a work plan that I can use and my staff can use and all the boards and commissions can use going forward. As I explained earlier, it's kind of hard, to capture this in a, it's a complex set of projects, and trying to put it all on paper so that everyone understands it is always difficult. So sometimes it's why you need to explain it. My approach in presenting you this draft priorities list is to just update last year's. So the priority that was there last year is largely intact. I removed everything that was completed last year, and then the things that we started working on last year got included into the current project list. The items that are waiting in the queue to move up as soon as resources allow were is suggested in here based on what we saw in the community strategic plan, community survey. Based on those inputs is why I recommended it in this order. But that's up for all of you to discuss tonight. So with that, I'll open it up for council discussion.
I think the plan is good as it stands. I would, short-term rentals are such a hot-button item. It may be nice to, when you are working on it, to make, notify folks that you have had a meeting, that you are moving forward. I don't know, it's just some periodic update that this process is moving forward. I think there's a lot of people that, because they don't know what's going on, assume nothing's going on, and that's not the case.
That's fair.
And we've talked about that, and we want to have a full town hall so that it actually is back and forth, and that's all it's designed to do, is literally just talk about that subject so that all stakeholders can be a party.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so I did appreciate the opportunity earlier at the public hearing to explain the law and activity, and why there was a reason for that law, and we're about ready to re-engage here very, very shortly. One place that people can look, and Tammy mentioned it, is if you read the weekly reports. All the activity, everything that's happening is in the weekly report. So when we do meet, it's in there. You can see that we're moving forward. But yeah, hopefully we'll start putting some things together and bringing them forward here soon.
Or come to our meetings.
Well, or you could put a short-term rental paragraph in the Gazette.
Yeah. Because I think just
If
coming to our
something's been
council
discussed.
meetings.
If something's been discussed, yeah.
Absolutely.
Just stay
Absolutely.
updated.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that was brought up, we've talked about for the last year and a half.
But if I can, on that, I think a couple things, because I know when recommendations came to council, some of us were surprised. So just coming to our meetings isn't, quite enough. I think, and I apologize for being late, but even though I wasn't able to be here physically, I was listening to everyone's comments, and I very much appreciate all the input received. But as I think came up a couple times and has come up throughout, there has been a lack of public confidence in the composition of the committee, making sure all of our bases are covered. So I think I heard John say they've already scheduled the next meeting. So that might be something we want to revisit and discuss. Now, some of that was related to the scope of the recommendations, which was a surprise to some of us. So those two things are related. But I think it's important to have that public confidence going forward. Yeah, and I think we've heard loud and clear that maybe we need to move that up a little bit on the priority list.
I wondered, and follow up to that, Andrew, if in our, item F under retain small town character, item F is enact short-term rental STR regulations. We have evaluate recommendations provided by STR working group and establish STR regulations. I wonder if there needs to be a little more meat there. One of them being some of the things you referenced, John, in the public involvement. Like, if there could be, I don't have the solution, and I apologize. I normally try to make a specific recommendation, but to me, given the amount of comment that was made, I'm not sure that one sentence captures it all. I don't know if
So
I'll
perhaps,
link
so,
to my-
How would you like it
so
to read?
You're describing the process. We
Yes.
should maybe outline the process better
Yes,
here.
because I think that that is a part of a strategic plan, and those are specific goals, and that allows people to follow those objectives as we move forward. I again apologize, I don't know exactly what I'm looking for, but to me, that just doesn't.
Could I make a suggestion then? Right now, it reads, evaluate recommendations provided by the STR working group and establish regulations. Insert in between those two, evaluate recommendations of the STR working group, comma, solicit public input through town hall meetings and public hearings, comma, and then establish regulations. So and basically, insert in there that
Yeah, like it
there's
jumps from
there's
this
a
to this
place for
without
the
that
there's a
important
place for
part.
the public in this process.
Right. Yeah, town hall should definitely.
While I don't disagree with that conceptually, then why would we not add it for everything?
That was the
You
point I
know-
was making earlier. This is, the strategic plan is just, this is the list of what needs to be done, not how we're going to do it. I mean, you could start micromanaging all of these if you start trying to do that. But that said, I think there's an exception to every rule. And I think the amount of public input that we've received tonight would justify, in this case anyway, to be put a little bit more meat on the bones on this one.
Right. I mean, under golf carts, we have better and more signage, better and more, we have a lot of very specific things, so I think it's.
Councilman Grossman.
Yeah, what I'd like to do is make a motion that we adopt the strategic plan as presented, and these kinds of things that we can have amendments.
Yes, that's,
Okay,
by
so
process, you have to put it on the table, yes,
I'll
right.
put it on the table through a motion.
Second.
Any other discussion?
So now,
All
we're
right,
now,
so
now,
now-
now we're ripe, now we're ripe for an
on
amendment,
this
yes.
One particular page relative to short-term
I'm
rentals.
sorry, real quick. Councilman Paul, would you have something before we?
Oh, no, I was just gonna ask if we were talking about approving everything, or if there was gonna be more discussion
No, we're gonna have
on the
amendments.
town priorities.
I didn't know if he was
It's
going
on
to an
the
amendment
table
first.
now
Go right
for
ahead, I'm
amendments.
No,
Are
I
we
just,
gonna do priorities last, like separately?
yeah,
I
like,
think
is
we
that part of
have?
approving the plan since it's an appendix?
So, okay, so the appendix is part of the plan.
Okay.
So what Councilman Grossman did is he put the entire plan, including the priority list, on the table. That's procedurally what you have to do, okay? At the end of the day, that's what we're gonna vote on. That's not where we're at now. So now that it's on the table, you can amend anything there. You can amend any part of the plan, you can amend any part of the priority list. We'll do them one at a time by amendment. When all amendments are done, then you will vote on the main motion as amended, and we'll go from there.
Sorry.
So, what we just finished on enacting the short-term rentals, I heard injecting there, provided by the short-term rental working group, solicit public comments through town hall meetings, and establish short-term rental regulations.
And public hearings on the, solicit public input through town hall meetings and public
And
hearings.
public hearings, okay?
Is it possible to make a separate section that just says, this is how we do these things? In other words, so it would then apply to everything.
No, not really, because you don't have a town hall meeting on everything in this plan.
Correct.
I mean, I think you really need to treat them specifically.
We have our Thursday meetings every third Thursday.
So right now, we have an amendment on the table to the motion.
Correct.
Is there a second?
And a second.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Any other discussion on the amendment? All in favor?
All right.
All opposed? All right, so the amendment,
That amendment passed. Now,
Passes.
we have another amendment if you
All
want.
right, so I have one on the first page, page 5. And Mr. Hosey talked to the particular concern from a letter, but I suggest under A, encourage a sense of engagement, inclusion amongst community services. I would propose, we said it's already done, an item 5 there, invite civic groups as appropriate to participate in working groups. That's effectively bringing into our strategic plan what we do.
As long as the word "as appropriate" is there, I would support that. I
Yep.
mean, because I want to be locked into
No, I
having
agree. I
everybody.
agree. That's correct.
So,
So item A,
A5.
Invite civic groups as appropriate to participate in working groups.
Second that.
Any discussion on that amendment? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That amendment carries unanimously. Any other amendments this evening?
I had one also on page 7, promote environmental stewardship. And again, addressing one of the comments made, I would add as D, protect and maintain Central Park.
I would agree with that.
I'll
We have a
second that
motion.
one.
Is there a second? You have a second? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That amendment carries unanimously. Anybody else looking to amend the strategic plan?
So I think we're up to appendix B now with the priorities, whether anybody wants to.
Or do we have to go back to the,
No,
Okay.
I mean,
We can go
if
forward.
we're done with the main
Capital
plan, then we can move on to the
Capital plan, did you
appendix.
want to add that as a?
okay.
The only appendix we can't change is A, because that's the comp plan. We can't change that. But if we're ready, you can move on to appendix B.
just a question, where would we include that, that we add the capital improvement plan?
That would be direction to me. That's not part of the plan. That'll be in the minutes that you're asking me to create an appendix C.
Yeah.
To attach the capital plan once done. So it'll be after the fact.
Well, it's also, we said we wanted to get this done prior to the budget, which
Right.
includes the capital plan, but some of the consultants that we hire have to be fed into our budget as well as the capital plan as appropriate.
Right, so, yeah, so again, I agree with the concept, but we are gonna be a year out. But that's okay, as long as we note that on there. Because when you look at appendix B and appendix C, they're not gonna match up. That's gonna be, I don't know, is that gonna be more confusing?
Could be.
I just don't think that the public relief ties those things together, and, there were a lot of comments about, well, we have a consultant for this, but not for this. Those things really help everybody see that they're just as important as these priorities.
How about this as an alternative? How about instead of creating a whole different appendix with a year-old document, we make a note on appendix C to reference the strategic plan, the 5-year plan?
Comprehensive plan.
Sorry?
The five-
A 5-year
capital plan,
five-year
okay.
capital plan, I'm sorry. If we just make a note on here that, that this priority is been developed in conjunction or consideration of the 5-year capital plan as part of the budget. Just to draw people's attention to it and send them to the right place.
Right.
And then they'll have the real-time document then.
Yeah, they've probably got a link on there,
Yeah, because that capital plan will change.
ever changing.
All right, so you're saying put a note on appendix B?
Yes.
Not C? You
Yeah,
mentioned-
let's not create a C, because I
Not
think that's
create, right.
confusing, because you're gonna have different years. They're not gonna match up. So let's just put a note on B for people to look to the capital plan within the budget.
All right, I'll make the motion to accept that.
Second.
Put it on the table.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, appendix B note is approved unanimously. Anything else?
It's kind of hard just discussing each of these sort of ad hoc in isolation. So a simpler one is first, I would say item 11, in terms of new things to be started as soon as possible, that develop a townwide parking capacity inventory and recommendations be at the top of the next list. Because I think when we decided to pull that out as a separate issue, I mean, we all agreed we're not really gonna make much headway in terms of impact and results on short-term rentals without dealing with parking, but that biting off parking as part of short-term rentals was too much. So I think that 11 should move up to be 10.
I
So
agree,
I would
I
move
agree
that.
with that.
Sorry, I move that we
And I was going to suggest that that would be the only change I'd suggest in the priority list as well.
The only comment I'll make in opposition to the motion is that's directly and contrary to what the public survey recommended. The public survey said that parking wasn't an issue, but that planning for the railroad area was the next thing they wanted us to work on.
But that's
So-
when you
and
get
actually-
parking in the bigger sense, but if you listen to the SGR concerns, parking is definitely one of the big three.
And I disagree with that interpretation of the survey results. We don't have, there wasn't like a number, so it's not statistical, so we have to rely on the written comments. I think in the presentation, anytime someone put no comment, that was interpreted as them not having an issue, which is not how people answer surveys. If I frequently answer surveys, and if it's not a high priority for me, I don't answer where they ask for written comments, and I think a lot of people do that. So while we all might write in, so I don't think you can interpret a blank as meaning one thing or the other. And I think it also was not broken down by full-time resident, visitors, et cetera. And I am very confident that if we separated out the comments by the full-time residents, took away the blanks, I think we would see that it is identified as a priority.
I think it was broken down to full-time.
Not on that
No,
one,
not
because
the
it was only
comments.
verbal
Oh, not the
comments.
comments,
Not the
okay.
comments were, no.
Yeah, it was not set up that way.
But we
But
clearly
the-
heard it as an issue.
Yes.
Correct.
Regarding SGR, and we knew that when we got the report from the committee, and we kind of set it aside. So, I think.
So I just want to clarify that that's not what this is, okay? This is not coming up with a parking plan. This is coming up this is coming up with an inventory and recommendations to expand existing parking. This is not doing a town-wide parking plan. That's not what we discussed at our strategic planning work session. So this is a different thing, and parking is part of the STR discussion. So it will be part of the STR discussion going forward. And if we're going to deal with that, we're going to have to deal with it within the context of the STR discussion. But if you're looking for a broader parking plan throughout the town, that is not what we discussed at the work session. That's not what this is. If that's what you want, you need to amend this.
Well, I think we agreed when we discussed pulling it out, but prior to the work session, that you cannot address parking only for short-term rentals.
That is correct. I thought we were going to do it as
So
an
we had
entire
agreed to make it a
town
separate
parking.
thing, and I assumed improvements led in that direction.
But the parking capacity inventory would help, I think.
Well, this
with
would be the first
short-term
step.
rental issue.
This would be the first step I would imagine in developing a larger parking plan. Again, we're doing an inventory and coming up with possible recommendations to expand and improve parking areas. That's what this specifically is saying.
So could we take out Harbor and Railroad and just put in Cape Charles and have it as a master plan for the town?
Well, except I think we specifically identified parking as an issue in our council discussions.
Whatever you
when
want to
it-
agree that we move it up to number 10, I guess that's,
Yeah.
where are we at when
Well,
we agree?
Right, but if we leave it at this, it's only talking about Harbor and,
No.
Because
No,
oh, I'm sorry, I'm
no,
looking
he's
at the
talking
wrong
about
one. I'm
level.
sorry. My apologies.
Here's
Yep.
my only concern. If, I believe that does need to happen, and it needs to be involved with the whole short-term rental discussion. But once the railroad property becomes available, who knows when that will be? We have to be able to, really before that, start moving towards that. We don't want it to be another case of we got involved too late to make a difference. So I would just say we have to be careful to say we're going to push that down when we may, in order to plan appropriately, it needs to be, when it's time to plan for it, we need to plan it.
Right, but now we're talking about something that the time to plan for it is actually behind us on parking, and it's an urgent need
And we're
now.
not going to be able to impact the short-term
Yeah.
rental
Well,
regulations.
Because, I mean, that's going back to what I said earlier about the scope and composition. I mean, the composition of the previous short-term rental committee was certainly not adequate if we're talking about things that are going to impact non-short-term rentals parking. So, It's,
But my worry is we then create another whole set of problems by pushing back creating a master plan.
Not necessarily,
No,
because if you put the parking,
We're
that's
not
gonna
dropping it.
push the development and the process of the planning of that area with parking already set. So that's gonna help that.
No,
problem.
no,
Yeah,
I disagree.
disagree with that,
The part, the
too.
part,
integral part of what everyone's identified as a high priority. and
Absolutely.
You can't go forward with one without the other. Like we discussed previously, they kind of need to happen in parallel, but it's too much for one bite. So basically, to not advance that means certain aspects of short-term rentals are not going to be satisfactorily addressed. And we've heard a lot of mention about parking.
as a practical matter, though, even if you move it to 10, it's not going to get done until we get the other stuff done. So we're going to be continue to work on short-term rentals and not do the parking study. So we are going to do short-term rentals without dealing with the parking.
But we won't be able to solve all the problems and have the full impact. So
Fair enough. So that one will still have to be dealt with.
yeah, but I'm just saying, because it's an issue or something that's a top priority, for us to have full impact as soon as possible, we should move that up one notch.
A number of the active items are coming to conclusion.
That is correct.
Right.
There's still a lot of work to be done, I get that, but there's a number of them that will be coming off of there, I think.
Well, 1 and 6 will hopefully be coming off there pretty quickly. But there's significant work on
9.
all the rest of them. I mean, all the rest of them is still a huge amount of work left to do on this, especially when you put short-term rentals in there. That's a lot of work. And the beachfront master plan, that's a lot of work. I frankly am not sure that we're going to see anything from below move up this year with all this other stuff that we're trying to do.
We hadn't budgeted anything in this current budget relative to the railroad property master plan?
We did have some money hidden.
Right.
We did have some money hidden in Katie's budget. But we just couldn't get to it.
No, but I'm saying, we have set aside monies figuring that we would at least get into it this current fiscal year.
Well, if things had happened faster with short-term rentals, we might have been able to,
Right.
but it won't happen now this fiscal year. We'll have to carry that money forward.
So, all right, so with the proposal of 11 becoming 10, is there any wording change that needs to be done?
I would think so, because what I'm hearing you say is not what I'm reading down here. So I think you need to reword this to what it is you want to accomplish. I see what's written here is just a step of what you want to accomplish. You would probably want to do these things as part of a larger parking plan, I would think.
So if we
Well,
were to
there's not
say
even a
something
parking
along
plan
the
on here.
lines of,
Right.
develop a town-wide parking plan to include a parking capacity inventory and
Yes.
recommendations for,
Yes. I think that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
Yes. So is that
yes, it is.
an
So
amendment?
you need, do we have a motion?
Did we vote on the motion to move it up, or is that an amendment to the amendment?
No.
Well, I think we
Oh,
have-
wait a minute.
I moved to
Oh,
move
was that
it
an
up.
actual, okay, we have to move on that first. We have to vote on that one
All
first.
right, make a motion to move it.
I already did.
Okay.
And it
Has been
was
I
seconded.
introduced it.
Okay.
I just agreed with
So
him.
any
I
other
didn't
discussion
hear
on
it as in
moving
the
it
form
up
of
to
a
number
motion.
10? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So we're moving it to number 10 unanimously. Now your motion.
Okay, so
Or
now
amendment, I'm sorry.
now
Amendment.
Ken's motion.
Right, so I move to amend item what is now 10 to say, develop a town-wide parking plan to include the rest there.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously.
I
We
just
have
have one
any-
other thing.
Okay.
At the top, that explains that this is concurrent It just reads a little bit confusing at the end, and I think it's maybe why people didn't understand it a little bit, but all items in blue are being worked concurrently with resources applied in the following order. That makes it sound like it is in the following order.
It does.
That's what we
It
can
does.
tell them it does.
So, in my explanation to you and not to the public, and I'll own this, what that means is that while we're doing all these things at the same time, if on the rare occasion,
You have a day that you're not doing
no, on a rare occasion when two of these things require my attention today,
Yes.
which is rarely happens, but if two things require my attention today, the one I will work on first is in this order of priority.
Right.
But that doesn't happen very often. So, are you suggesting we just take out everything after concurrently? Would that be clearer?
Or in no particular order?
Or bullet instead of
Yeah,
number.
because a lot of it's discretion. You can't, you're waiting on something with this or that. I think once
like
it's in
that.
blue, it is better
Yes.
because going with the explanation you just gave, the Peach Street Trail project,
Yes.
if there's something that's going to make that move forward today, I think
Yeah.
that's a higher priority to most people, certainly the businesses on Beach Street, than a new municipal center.
Right.
Or just bullet
But
instead
we're
of
not,
number?
like you said,
Bullet
we
points
don't
instead of
frequently.
numbers.
That is
Right,
correct.
Yeah, you're not
right.
frequently discussing trade-off. It's all these balls you're keeping in the air. So I think once it makes it to the blue list, maybe having bullet points.
All
is a
right,
good
so
idea.
we would just put we would delete everything after the word concurrently and then change the numbers to bullets.
Correct.
That works.
Do we need to amend that or just
That-
do that?
That,
No, we didn't.
that's not a substantive, that's you giving me direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is anybody opposed to that? Okay, I will make that happen.
And it's much less confusing and reduces potential for unnecessary consternation.
So in that event, that parking now becomes number one. And
Oh, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But I
So
think it's very clear, new items to be started as soon as time and resources are available.
that would be clear,
Yeah.
that would be clear.
That's,
But it does still, to start that as one, does then imply it's
Yeah.
first in line, which
yes,
I now see, given what we just discussed,
Yeah.
is not really clear in
Right.
10.
yes.
One other clarification. In the front line where it says all these are being working concurrently, instead of just deleting that whole thing, could I say are being worked concurrently in no particular order or something like that to reinforce the fact that they're not in priority order?
That's fine. Sure. Yeah. And then no
Because
numbers
people
and
may
just
get
bullets.
concerned that the one's down below another one, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yep.
That's fine.
Okay.
Still just direction,
I mean,
correct?
that's consistent with the language in the beginning of the strategic plan.
All right. Any other amendments to the strategic plan or
that
appendix
changed just
B?
shortened our discussion quite a bit. We don't have to discuss directly in the first time.
Exactly.
Problems over here.
Sorry.
So there is a motion that has been seconded with as amended,
So we're back to the main motion as amended.
as amended.
That is what's currently ripe for a vote.
Do we have any other discussion on that? All in favor, as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion, as amended, passes unanimously. All right. On to Mr. Hosey's comments.
I'll try to keep it short. We put out a notice today on Facebook and Nixle and e-notifications. We finally have information on the house move in town, and I can now formally tell you it's Taylor Bank coming in. I could say, surprise, surprise.
Right.
The house will be moved next Thursday, as soon as it gets light, about 7 in the morning. It's going to be moving west down Mason, north on Bay, east on Washington, going 600 block to 600 block. You ask, well, why do you go in the long way around? Well, it's because of the light, it's because of the wiring. Okay, we have to be much more disruptive in taking down wires if we had to go down Fig Street. So that's why we're going the long way. The utility folks will be here. They'll be taking down lines as the house comes, and they'll be putting lines back as they go by. So there may be some limited disruptions of some of the overhead utilities, meaning, you know, electric or internet or cable, that sort of thing. There's actually very few places that will be affected, like everywhere along Bay, all the wires going across there. They're just feeding the light poles on the other side. They're not services. So that's the reason we're going that way. What we are asking the public is to please do not park on the south side of Mason next Thursday morning, because we're going to need that space. We'll put out another notice the day before. Okay, but so this is a week in advance to let everybody know. We'll put out another notice next week, right before it happens.
And will there be signs?
The police will be there. The police will be.
No, I mean, like, because people will park there, I'm thinking hotel guests, someone might park there the afternoon before.
I think they were talking about putting out cones to block it, or to
And
keep.
Main Street did an announcement.
And I asked Main Street to do a constant contact. Yep. Other than that, I just want like to also thank everybody who came out for the Cape Charles Day. It was a big effort, and there was a lot of volunteers that showed up. The Citizens League did a great job trying to work on the dunes. Town residents worked on in-town stuff. The Rotary worked on the road going out to Route 13. So we had decent weather. So again, thank you very much to everybody who participated. And then the last thing, just as a very brief overview, the utility sale is going well. Everything is proceeding as good as we could have hoped. The town, Virginia Water, SCC staff, and now the SCC hearing officer all agree that this is something that should be moved forward. It is now ripe for the commission to rule. We hope to get a ruling in the first week or so of April. If that happens, we're going to try very hard to get closing by the end of April to be done by May 1st. That's all I have.
All right. Any council members have any comments? Yes.
I had 2 items. Just following up with Cape Charles Day, we had a resolution to make it coincide with our founding on March 1st, and I'd like to have it brought back, to move it back a couple weeks.
So it's warmer?
Warmer weather, yes. So if you can just have a resolution back to us, I would appreciate that. The other thing is, we finally got county tax assessments. The one thing I'd caution people on, and I'm gonna make a note to the treasurer and the board of supervisors, on the tax bill, or it's not a bill, but on the assessment, they do use the current tax rate, and they give you a new tax number that you'll be expected to pay if you didn't understand how this all works. The Board of Supervisors and Town Council will eventually set a new rate. And the way it's supposed to work is assessments go up and your tax rates go out and equalize, and if they don't, then you have public meetings in order to address it. I'm just saying, these letters are now hitting the street with the current tax rate applied to your increased assessed value and giving you a heart attack. All I'm saying is that will be changed, but we're gonna have to keep an ear to the ground relative to what is the rate that they're going to eventually propose. So I just wanted to caution people that this is a property value change, not a tax bill.
And will that rate be decided at that May 28th meeting, or?
Yeah, they still have not presented at the county level,
Right.
nor have we presented budgets on the expense side.
Yes.
And they had a presentation recently that said that the schools are gonna be looking for another $2.5 million. I'm not gonna argue needed or not, that adds the expense. Then all of a sudden, I can't live with a reduced tax rate, I need to raise in order to address that. So, more to follow, but just, that's
And
out.
one clarification, or subsequent clarification to that is, even if they say, okay, there's not gonna be an increase, we're gonna completely equalize, that does not mean here in Cape Charles, your tax
Correct.
bill will not increase, because the increased values are disproportionately targeted at the town of Cape Charles, where we're seeing the growth and perhaps some overstretching. So that doesn't mean don't pay attention to what your assessment is if you do feel it's
Yeah,
not
'cause even if
realistic.
you equalize it, most of the county's taxes will go down.
Yeah, but not Cape
Not here.
Charles. It'll get displaced as it did 2 years ago.
Exactly.
So just a couple of things. First, I'd like to thank the folks at the Shanty for what they did for the Education Foundation. They put on an event for a fundraiser that was just tremendous. It was all donated by the Shanty and made a huge difference, raised a lot of money for the Northampton County Education Foundation, so thank you to them. A little bit of explanation to Paul's comment about the school system coming back for $2.5 million. To explain some of that, schools are funded based on what's called the Local Composite Index, the LCI, which is based on a lot of factors, but one of the big ones is property values in the locality. Because our property values went up, that says the county has the ability to pay more money. So the amount of money we get from the state went down $2.5 million, which means it's got to get made up somewhere, or you've got to cut programs at the school. So that's kind of where that comes from in a really simplistic view. So.
Thanks.
I'm good.
You're good?
I just have two things.
Yes.
I wanted to congratulate Ken and Main Street for a great job fair at the
Thank you.
YMCA, and to kind of thank publicly the YMCA for their
Yes.
partnership with us. I think it opens the doors for us as a town to work more and congruently with them. So
So,
congratulations.
thank you. Just to add a little bit to that, we had 26 businesses looking for employees. We had about 90 job seekers come through. Many of the employers, both town folks and throughout the county, said they got lots of good leads for that. This is our third year running the job fair, and we will be continued doing that, and the YMCA is a perfect place for it. Great partners.
And then the last thing is that the celebration of life for Jane McKinley is going to be March 30th, so it's a week in Cape Charles, a week from Saturday at 2 o'clock starting in the gazebo, where we will do some things there and a dedication of a tree and bench that will be located there, and then to follow in St. Charles Parish Hall. And everyone's encouraged to come to both. If you come to the reception, we're asking people to bring an appetizer or dessert to kind of share stories about Jane and celebrate the wonderful person she was. If you have any questions, Diane, there's a lot of us here that have helped, and I know how important, and Mark will be glad to answer any questions that you have for doing that. Her memorial in Richmond is this Saturday. And so we've been working closely with her family in doing that. So I just wanted to, this is kind of our first public place to say that.
Thank you. Councilman Buckles?
Andrew has his hand.
Oh, no, I was just going to ask Ken on his comment. In terms of getting more and more employers to participate in subsequent years, do we get any sort of follow-up as to how many actual hirings result from the job fairs?
We're doing a survey that will do that.
All right, just a couple of things. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming out on Cape Charles Day. It was a great turnout. I mean, a lot of work was done. Kudos to the statue. It looks absolutely beautiful. If you haven't gone by, a lot of work and a lot of effort was put into it, and it looks beautiful. And just like John always says, the town is pretty clean, so we were able to clean up a lot of the streets just with the brush and everything else. So thank you all very much.
You have more trash than groceries.
A few announcements. April 4th is a tentative work session. I guess we'll get more information on that. April 15th will be the joint work session with the Planning Commission. Or April, did I say April 15th? Yeah. And then April 18th will be the regular town council meeting. And on that note, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.